holding on to something that they're in the minority. But I don't think they're wrong. I think they're out of touch with everybody else. But for them to be that passionate about it, how can you ignore that kind of passion? How can you ignore someone who is adamantly saying, hey, there is something that we all need to still prepare for? And everybody's like, nah, dude, that's not, you're wrong, you're an idiot, and you go like, huh.
And that was, I was kind of naive in this way. I thought that because you read stories about even Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Copernicus, these guys with ideas that now we take as, they're fact 100%.
Correct.
But when they were alive, Copernicus was I think he's locked up in a church or something.
Yes.
He's blasphemous. Or this guy Gandhi, why are they kicking the shit out of Gandhi every day?
Right.
It's isn't he right? But
right.
And I was like, oh, we're so civilized, we're past that. If you're a little different, people will accept your ideas. But now we've gone back to the point of if you're different, you pay I didn't know that you pay consequences for being right.
The stories that we were told, they focused on it. I mean, the biggest one would be Jesus Christ,
I know,
Martin
I
Luther
thought
King.
that we were past that.
No, well, that's the thing. Society will have you think that we're past that. And that is what birthed this whole opinion, this whole show for me. This whole concept was always being able to look at the guy who's in the minority, the guy that is saying, that everyone's saying he's crazy. You've always said it, I'm fascinated with stupidity. I am enamored at a person who can walk in a store now with all of the propaganda about COVID, can walk in a store with no mask and argue with 50 people and go, fuck that, you can't make me do it. I don't I get it. This person is insane, but there's something that I want to know about that, and I always wanted this show to be, I wanted to always interview that guy. I always wanted to interview that lady, have them as a guest, to be like, now, this is you doing this thing. The audience clearly hates you.
Yeah.
I want to hear your side.
Oh, it'd be the best.
I want to give you a chance to explain where you're coming from, because right now I'm with everybody. The common theme is you're wrong. And I'm inclined to think that way, but you are so passionate, you're so adamant about it. Please tell us more, because I don't want us all to be wrong.
And because what's a fact? Nobody is 100% wrong. Just like nobody is 100% right. So the person who we're they're 100% wrong is no, there's some rightness to them, and let's get it. They might have all this other shit that's wrong with them, fine, but there's a little bit of a nugget that's that is right and righteous. It's let's find that, because they might have got lost along the way. They started in a good place and then it just steered off the cliff. But it's there is something right about that.
There's something in there.
Yeah.
And that's why we explore the unpopular opinion, man. We have to explore the unpopular opinion.
And also too, with I don't think people voice unpopular opinions because it takes too much effort. So if we're eating, we had somebody say that pepperoni shouldn't be on pizza. But if we're going out to eat pizza, or I'm on a date, it was a girl, I'm on a date with her and she starts talking about that, I was most people are going to be I don't want to have this conversation right now. It's then you have to think too much, you have to dig, you have to understand where that person's coming from. It takes too much effort. And then she probably won't say that because then she doesn't want to explain herself. It's too much of a thing to talk about.
Where are you supposed to have these conversations?
So on the show we have the unpopular opinion. People are leaning in, they're this is the frame, this is the format of where they lean in. It's I want to hear what this person has to say, because there's people who think things all the time and they just you get shit on if you say I don't like butter. They're what do you mean you don't like butter? Everybody likes butter. It's no, I don't. But it's too much. It's not worth the effort to voice your small observation. Of isn't this weird that this does this? People are shut up. I don't feel like having that conversation.
And here's the other thing. It's you don't want to voice that thing, not only because it's met with resistance, but it's usually met with resistance violently, viscerally. That was the other thing. I started this show using comedians because I knew I couldn't actually have the psychopaths on the show. I couldn't have the person with the unpopular opinion that everybody hates on the show, because how do I stop an angry mob from tearing this person apart because they said something that they disagree with?
You know what they call that now, which is weird? It's why do you give that person the platform if you interview somebody, if someone tries to figure out where somebody's coming from, they're like, you're giving that evil person a platform. It's like, no, we're trying to have a discussion to figure some things out, and maybe we'll understand that person or people like them because they had a tragedy happen in their life or trauma, or they have a biological, impairment.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't talk to them. Bad. And it's like, well, if that's how it's going to be, it's not like we agree with this guy. It's like we're interested in like finding it. But at the same time too, with comedians, you can make fun of that person to be like, if they're wrong, you're not like, is that right?
Exactly.
You're like, you can shit on them, and then it's funny, even
Exactly.
though it might not, whatever. But it's like,
yeah. And I may interview somebody and find out your opinion is not valid. You're absolutely out of your fucking mind. But I gave it a try. It was a valiant effort, and thanks for coming on and explaining your point of view.
People are the ones who thought out their ideas. So like you might get the worst is the people who are just reactionary. That are just like, yeah, I do this because I do this. It's like, no, that's not good enough. But if you think it through and you have some idea, and it's like, I don't like the way that you came to this idea, but the fact that you thought it out and you have like they say in The Wire, a man's got to have a code.
Right.
Like if you have a code and this is how you operate, then it's very interesting.
Now this is how I guess dumb I am, because I get too deep into it. The guy that goes, oh, this is how I do it because this is how I do it, I'm like, okay, who taught you? Because I still need to know where it comes from. Like, I know, okay, somebody programmed you and didn't give you an explanation.
Uncover it because he's not doing the.
But the sad part is he doesn't even care to uncover it. He's cool with this is how I do it because this is how I do it. I, for some reason, still feel the need to be like, okay, well, who taught you?
Right.
Because I just need to understand the foundation of that thought.
Right, and it's interesting when I was thinking about like why I am the way that I am, or like I was going through some existential, some problem or whatever, like, and I was like, okay, well, what were my parents like? Where did I learn this? And when you start thinking about why are you the way that you are is probably from habits that you got from your parents, and they got that from somewhere else, an environment or their parents. Like, and I was starting to dig deeper, and I found this thing out about my mom. When she was 3 years old, she was given up for adoption, but nobody took her, so they forced her family to take her back. It made me understand my mom, like 75. Like, I'm like, I get you now. I get it. Like, you faced double awful rejection at the age of 3, and you remember it. It's like, yeah, I completely understand. Kind of like, not everywhere you're coming from, but I get it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and if she was mean to me or she was like bitter for years, I was like, yeah, I understand now. And if that made me bitter for something, if that made me angry in a way, it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
So if you can discover that about people, and it doesn't even have to be like psychotherapy. It's just like, yeah, I grew up in this neighborhood and I saw this kid get shot when I was this, and my brother got killed, and this is how I do it, and I don't really think about it too much. It's like, yeah, I understand you 100% now. I get it. But a lot of people, they don't think about their past.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, I does it because I does it. But it's like, if you really got to highlight that little event or a few events, you're like, oh, I completely, and that's where I guess you can get to like the Christianity thing. It's like, love your neighbor. It's like, don't judge not lest ye be judged. It's like, oh, I get it. And like, I see people all the time. It's like, I could easily be you. If I see a homeless person, I'm like, I could have been that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that kind of gets interesting. And then you add the funny to it where it's not too heavy, and that's the show of like just understanding people and like how habits are passed down generation, environment, and then it gets interesting, and then you can make fun of the people, and then the show is funny rather than being like a psychotherapy session.